design community, and we have Rasheeda Gray with us. Hi, how exciting.
Hi, how are you guys?
And of course, Niall.
Good.
Niall's always here.
Hi. I'm here always.
So we are so excited to have you, Rasheeda, because you have such an interesting background and you've really like grown your business skyrocketing it into like this prolific interior design business. I'm just really excited to see every step you took so that our designers can learn from you because you really did well, coming into this without,
Mhm.
that experience, but you had that marketing background. So start telling us a little bit about yourself and your background in corporate marketing and how it led you into design.
Well, thank you so much for your kind words. I really appreciate it. So let's see, where do I start? You're right. I come into this industry with a totally different background. I have a degree in marketing and international business. I also have a master's of business administration, so an MBA. So I come from corporate America, and my last role in corporate was assistant vice president of marketing in insurance and financial services. Totally different world, totally different industry. And, I got to a point in my career where I was climbing the corporate ladder. It was great. And then I just kind of felt like not connected to work at all. So I did a little bit of soul searching. Fast forward, I was also selling a home at the same exact time that I was kind of going through this midlife work crisis. And the realtor told me to stage my home. And I was like, what does that mean? So I did a Google search, did what Google told me, and our home sold in 3 hours. And
Wow.
that is when the light bulb went off for me. It was like, okay, this hobby that you have that you love to decorate since you were a child is really not just a hobby, but a talent. So that's kind of where I started in 2016.
I love it. I'm of the belief, and I know that this is sometimes has been controversial in the past, although I will say in the recent years it's not as controversial as it used to be. A believer that, people who find their way into the world of interior design, I just always have encouraged you, depending on, I don't really care where your background is. If you have talent,
Mhm.
if you have something to contribute to make the world a better place and a more beautiful place for your clients, like I welcome designers from all walks of life. And I think that it's really important for our industry to encourage art being made, and really understanding that helping people be successful, we don't have to be gatekeepers. We don't have to be
No.
gatekeepers in this industry. And, I think that there can be almost like a level of jealousy sometimes when they see someone who came up from outside of our industry and maybe didn't go to school for design make it. But I've talked to Niall about this at length. It's like if he could do it all over again, he was like, I would take business classes. We just had a post on a
Yeah.
question of ours on the interior design community asking people, what skill do you wish you had before you became a designer? And overwhelmingly it was, business skills, really really strong
Yeah.
business skills. This experience with your marketing background, I just think it lends to interior designers really having that formative business experience, and your MBA obviously must have prepared you to really like tackle the world of design in a different way, because you certainly have been incredibly successful. You've had 250 completed projects since 2016. I mean, that's massive. That's a massive amount of work. I mean, some designers don't get their whole career. So, how many people are on your team? Just curious.
Yeah, so there's three of us right now, actually four, super part-time person, but I have two junior designers and then one operations specialist who does all back end. So
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. But how are you using your MBA in your world of, transitioning to this career?
yeah, it was interesting when I first decided that I wanted to pursue the industry of design. I sort of thought I was at a disadvantage, not having a formal education in interior design, and thought that, there was going to be a huge learning curve. And what I quickly discovered is my job as the owner of a design business is 25% design, 75% business. Some even say higher, that it was a competitive advantage for me. It wasn't a disadvantage. And so I quickly leaned into those skills that I learned in business school and in my prior life, like marketing, to grow the business. I
Right.
said, what do I love to do? And the things that I don't love to do, I'm going to hire in order to get those done. When I made the transition, I spent 3 years doing both. So 3 years building a business as well as 3 years in corporate. I was
Oh,
still working
wow.
my full-time job. So
Wow.
my days would be like 9 to 5, go home, feed the kids, do some homework, and then 9 to 1 a.m. would be working on the business. So I did
Wow.
that for 3 years, and that was insanity.
I
But
mean, dedication, that's on a whole that's crazy.
Yeah.
That
yeah, yeah, and
for
my kids
3
were
years?
Yep, and my kids were younger. I left corporate in 2019, so 6 years ago. So my kids were 14 and 9. And so because of that, I had my corporate salary, and that helped me to be able to scale in a safe way during that time because I was able to hire and not worry about necessarily paying myself because I had my corporate salary to support that.
Do you wish you had done things differently, or do you like that you were able to kind of, work to that level? That's a working to an extreme level, because I'm sure you're also filling in on weekends. You're making your business happen by all means. Like, do you regret that way, or do you think that was the right way for you to build the foundation that you built?
If I'm honest, personally, sometimes I wish that I didn't work so hard during that time. And give me 1 second. There's a lot going on today. Hold on. I don't know if you guys can hear the sirens, but they just
Just
passed.
barely,
Okay.
a little bit, not much.
All right. I'll start over. If I'm honest, I think personally during that time, maybe I would have wished that I didn't work as hard, but everything happens for a reason. Professionally, no, I'm happy that I did it that way. Believe it or not, I'm pretty risk adverse. My husband's an entrepreneur. He is the opposite. He takes great big risks, and I don't. And so that was a safe way for me to start the business. The one thing I do wish I would have done differently is the position that I initially hired for, or the positions that I initially hired for, they were more along the lines of design instead of in operations. And
Yeah.
that really kind of formed a bit of bottleneck in our business early on.
Right, right. So at what point did you decide to hire that first teammate? When was that?
So I started the business in 2016, and my first hire was early 2018. So about a year and a half in.
Okay.
Um, and yeah, it got to the point where I'm still working my corporate job, and I knew I wanted to take the business to the next level, and I just could not do everything. And so because of that stability, I was able to bring someone on.
Okay, so how I want to start like sort of like drilling in on that. You've got
Yeah.
decided that you love the staging process. You decide you're gonna go all in, and or part not all in, but you're going to keep your corporate job and get into design. How did you get those first projects?
Word of mouth.
Word of
Um,
mouth. Really? How did
oh
you get
yeah.
word of mouth knowing when you didn't have, any background in it yet? So
Yep.
how did you get that?
Um, one of my earlier business decisions that I'm very proud of is I hired a business coach. And one thing that the business coach said to me that still rings true to this day is your level of excellence is going to be true no matter the industry, no matter what you're doing. If you are excellent in corporate marketing, you're going to be that same way in interior design. And so I sort of walked with that at the forefront. And quite honestly, I share with my best friends. I was like, hey, I think I'm going to begin a career in design. And one of my best friends told a friend and told another friend, and one of those folks were looking for an amateur designer. Call it coincidence, call it alignment. That was my very first project. And from there, my sister referred me to someone. I mean, it just kind of snowballed. And, I pride myself on being connected to my community. Before I began this business, that's just who I've always been. And that really helped to launch our business fairly
Right.
quickly in early stages.
Well, that is so important. I mean, I talk to the designers all the time, and I tell them, don't forget the local marketing aspect of your own community and getting to know people in the community that would refer products to you,
Mhm.
and participating in those local projects. It's really hard to do, I think, especially if you're a parent, especially if you're a working person, because it's just another thing to add
Yeah.
on to your
Yep.
day,
Yep.
you go to these
Right.
functions. Nobody really wants to go to the
No.
Yeah. But you know what it is? At one point early in the business, I was sort of struggling with the balance of, work-life balance and all the things, still working my corporate job. And a friend to me said, who also is a creative and has built a successful business, she said, you're going to be fueled and get the energy to build this business because it's something that you love. And early on, I discovered that this is my passion and my purpose. And that's really what sort of sustained me at those nights where I was up till 1 a.m., 2 a.m. in the morning.
Sure,
So,
sure. And I think once you have that inside you, right? Once you figure out this is, and I've seen it happen over and over again for designers who are second career designers in the world of design. It's always this light bulb moment. And it just something like that Cinderella, like that shoe fitting, it just feels right. And then evolves from all of these past experiences that you've had to make that work. And it's not an easy transition. I mean, it might have been easier for you to stay in your corporate job and just
oh,
keep doing the 9 to 5 and have that security, especially if you're the type of person who really values that security. I mean, I think it's remarkable you took this risk. I mean,
thank you.
even though you did it nights and weekends that made you more comfortable, it's still a risk to put yourself out there. Your corporate job could have gotten wind of it and said, hey, look, we don't really want you doing this, in the evenings. We feel like,
No.
sometimes people like to say, well, this is interfering with your work, or,
Yeah.
that kind of thing.
Did it
So
ever
it's
feel like a
hard.
risk though? Did it ever really feel like a risk, or did it feel
No,
right? Did you feel
it,
like you were
it, it
actually
did
finally
not.
moving into your purpose?
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it did feel like a risk those first 6 months after I left our corporate job.
Right. That part, I think the stability, I think,
Yeah.
I think, I think thinking about stability, right? But I think
Yeah.
moving because you're so good at what you do and it's natural for you. I can't see you transitioning from corporate into creative as you thinking of that as a risk. I just could see that for you being like, I'm making a transition into what I really should be doing. I
Oh, yeah.
can see though the stability of, okay, I know every 2 weeks or the first and the 15th, I'm gonna have some money coming in. I can see that for you because you remind me a lot of my little sister. I can see that for you, like being like, oh, wait a minute now, where's this money coming? Like, where is this coming from? That I can
Yep.
see, but it just feels to me like you were just moving into what your truth was. That's what I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. It was much more of a moment of alignment, relief. This is where I'm
yeah,
supposed to be. And then
yeah.
you get a little nervous. I think just a part of the journey. I mean, those first 6 months after I left my corporate job, I burned through my savings a lot faster than I expected to. And so that got very scary.
Yeah.
And then this thing called the pandemic happened 6 months
Oh,
later. And what the
yes.
heck did I do? I left all this stability and now here we are. But honestly, that was one of the best years that we've had in business. So quickly
Mhm, mhm.
continuing with perseverance, it came out on the other side. So
Oh, that's
Yep,
fantastic. And
yep.
it's just, I think that what's interesting to me about this is that something that our community should consider is that the right people find their way into the world of design, and with it you're bringing all of this experience that makes our community stronger and better. I mean, even your experience of working with, I'm sure you were just doing the marketing side of that, but working with an investment company, that's something that I think is really needed in our industry. We have a lot of women entrepreneurs who don't have truly a lot of experience in building wealth for themselves too,
yeah.
and making sure that they are taking care of their 401k. We asked our community, I want to say a couple months ago, if people felt like they were on track for their own 401k, and it was
Mhm.
like 10% felt that they were on track. And that
Wow.
is a shame when there are so many women entrepreneurs in our world. So, it's I think it's amazing that you have that kind of background because it gave you the ability to see things, the business side of this business, which is such a difficult thing for a lot of designers is, planning. You get that big first amount of money, and if you think you want to spend it on photography or you want to hire someone, and having the financial acumen to really like look at what where that growth needs to come from, and what percentage you need to be putting away for yourself and for your business growth. I think it must have been pretty remarkable. And you're doing a lot of things. You've got the contracting and construction, eDesign, you're heavily involved in having a great, system. Your team is great. You're doing a prolific amount of work. So it's helping. It's working for you.
I want to backtrack a little bit. My
Yeah,
first project wasn't this like ginormous,
sure.
amazing, and made it project. I mean, we really literally got one bedroom, and I probably charged enough for gas money because it was an hour away from home. Like,
Right.
you just kind of start where you start and you build from there. And now the types of projects that we take on, of course, have much larger budgets than that. But we do also offer virtual design in addition to full design. And for me, it's cash flow. That's really important in our business. So virtual design helps us with that. And then the other part is the construction. My husband is a contractor, licensed contractor. And so we work very closely together on probably about 75% of our projects right now.
Oh, that's fantastic. That
Yeah.
is that's always a good thing when the husband is a contractor. My husband did not get into our world at all, but he does training, and because of that is really good at editing. So he edits our video, our
That's
podcast
awesome.
every week. That's his
We all got to
volunteer.
have the family involved in the business for sure. And my husband didn't start out that way. He actually owns an insurance agency. So I was ready to throw in a towel with contractors. I really had a hard time finding ones that I could
Well,
trust and that would
that's
have the
tough.
quality of work that our
Yep.
clients expect. And so, because of his background, he took a leap as well and decided to join us about 5 years ago on the construction side. So,
Oh, wonderful. It's always great to find a partner you can trust. Do you keep your businesses separate? I have another designer I know that does that too. You should talk to her at some point. Ashbourne
I would
Design. Her
love to.
husband's a general contractor. It's a separate business, and then she does design, and they work together on some projects, but then they work independently on some projects also. So it's an interesting, I think that's
Taking
a
a
good
note.
way to do
Thank
it.
you.
Two businesses.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we are separate. I'm taking a note so I can follow up with you on that
Yeah,
contact. But
I will introduce you, because it's always interesting when you have someone else who does kind of a similar thing to you. And they're
yeah.
on Long Island too, so they're not
Oh, good.
too
They're
far.
close. Good.
Yeah. So how do you manage getting these e-design projects out there? How are you marketing yourself as an e-designer?
I honestly, I don't lead with that. If you look at my social media feed or
I wouldn't have
website,
guessed. Yeah.
yeah, it's not a prominent thing. What I do kind of hold true to as a value of mine personally is that everyone deserves good design. And so eDesign is our way to profitably be able to offer that. And so it depends on when the client comes in the discovery phase, and then we identify that you're not a good fit because of budget or project scope for full design, but e-design is another option. So we don't lead with it. I don't talk about it a lot, but it is something that our junior designers are able to do in our team, and it's profitable for us.
So it's sort of a downstream sort of plan. When they come in through onboarding, they fit into the funnel of full service design or e-design. I love that, because for a lot of designers, they're just like, no, you're not a good fit. And to be fair, maybe they can't handle that kind of
Yeah.
project, but it's interesting. I always like there to be something like that for designers. If you aren't going to be able to handle that project, to refer it out, or to offer another offering that gets that client something out of your services, rather than just tailoring it to that kind of client who maybe is just looking for a refresh or something of that nature. Now, how are you on systems like CRM, project management, billing? Is that where you shine?
Be still my heart. I love systems.
You do.
It really is, I think, the bedrock of our business. It's how I was able to grow and scale And, when you bring on a new team member, how do you sort of get them up and running as quickly as possible? So yes, CRM, I live by Dubsado. I've used it since the beginning. We built it out internally, and it's, where if someone comes into our business on our website, they go through a set of automated emails to qualify them, and then they'll schedule a call with us, and then we take it from there. And then in terms of project management, we are using design files right now for that, as well as design files for mood boards and designing. And then QuickBooks. Those are our three main systems.
We love QuickBooks.
Yes.
It's
I do
I
love QuickBooks.
we're
I love to know at any given moment what my business looks like financially. And so I love QuickBooks.
I love that you just said that because we
Mhm.
also like for our design. I mean, Niall knows I love it when the designers look at their financials every week, every single
Yeah.
week. Please look at your financials, look at your P&L, look at where you're profitable, where your losses are coming in. There are
Mhm.
opportunities to grow every time you see, well, that process could have been a little bit more smooth, or we didn't bill enough hours on that client, even though we were doing extra work for them. It just helps you build your process better so that you aren't losing money. You have to look at it in order for you to see where the holes are and where you could
Yes.
kind of
Yes.
streamline.
Yes.
And we
Agree.
That's
always
so
we
true.
had we had someone on a while ago now. I remember that they were like, start by just looking at your bank account once a month, like once a week.
She said
That's
it
a
was
great
so hard
step.
for her to do that, but she started. Yeah, 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 yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
wow.
yeah.
I'm kind of
You know,
She
obsessed
because
with
started.
for
It was
some
her
it.
check.
for some
In fact, it
designers,
was
they're
her.
very
It was her.
resistant to the
It was her
money
checking
side.
account. In fact, I think it was. She started
Yeah.
like it wasn't even all of them. She was like, I just started with my checking account, and she was like, it was
Wow.
so hard, but like she started, and now she's like, I could tell you at any given time, like the exact number to the penny,
Right.
and
Yeah.
I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
I look at my bank account at least once a day, probably more than that, but
Yeah.
because we all have so many like the transactions flying in and out and things happening that you just got to really track cash flow.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So have you ever had, how do you determine whether or not a client is a good fit for you? Have you ever had someone that just wasn't in those 250 projects?
Oh yeah, absolutely. More someone's now than I did initially. I mean, early on we took on almost everything that came our way. We were looking to grow and really didn't understand what was red flags and what wasn't. But a few years in, that quickly changed. And there's our initial questionnaire on our website sort of helps to qualify. But if that sort of goes through, then I have a 15-minute conversation with the prospect, and then I can determine if it's a good fit or not. Sometimes people that aren't good fits get through the 15-minute conversation and we get into the proposal phase. And when I'm in the proposal phase and there's like so many questions and I feel like
Yeah.
they're not in the process, and even before we get started, I'm like, okay, I have to pull the trigger. This is not going to be a good fit. And honestly, that's kind of hard, especially when you're
Mhm.
running a business, you're solely dependent on this income, and it could be a really large project, and you determine that it's not a good fit. You got to make a decision that's best for yourself personally, but also for the business. So, yeah, it happens all the time.
Oh, it's
So
always
you have questions in
hard.
your intake that tell you that sort of filter people out, and then that's like the first step, and then they come. Okay, that's really
Yeah.
smart. That's smart
Yeah.
because I don't know that a lot of people do that. I don't know a lot of people have
You know
questions
why?
in particular do that. Yeah.
Because television is a big part of my marketing strategy.
Hmm.
We get visibility on a mass scale,
They get a lot
and
of looky
not everybody
loos.
understands what the investment is to work with a designer. And
Yep.
so I have to have those parameters set up, or I'll be on discovery calls all day long. So
Yep.
Yeah. Tell us a
Yep.
little bit more about that, about how television is part of your marketing strategy.
yeah, it's a huge part. When I started the business, television was not on my radar. But one day I got a DM from a casting director and on Instagram, and I thought it was spam and almost didn't respond. And so last minute I responded, and it happened to be for a flea market flip on HGTV. That was in 2018. around the same time my parents were having some health issues. And so I was like, I don't think I'm going to do this. It's not the right fit. I'm not an antique designer, or I'm not a designer who DIYs and flips things. And so I don't know if this is a good fit. Fast forward, I ended up applying, and my husband and I were cast. So that aired in 2018, and just snowballed from there. We got some local press after that. Then I filmed a show in 2020 during the pandemic called Sell This House on A&E. I did 5 episodes of that. Then in 22, I did an episode of a show on the Magnolia network. And then now, most recently, our largest project yet, my husband and I are featured on HGTV's Renovation Resort for the
Yes,
entire season, 8 episodes.
that is so exciting. So, so,
Yeah,
so
it's got me a
exciting.
lot of cool points in my house because we were watching it when we were on vacation in Hilton Head, and I was like, I know her. She's my friend. And my kids are like, oh my God, our dad's so cool. He knows somebody on TV. So I got a lot of cool points.
Your dad has been cool before that. They just need to know
But
that.
see, yeah, they
They
don't
need to
know
know.
any of that stuff. So yeah.
No, my kids
I'm
don't
cool
think I'm
because
cool either. So
What kids do think their parents are cool? I don't know.
right.
So how many projects do you think come in from your exposure that you're getting
You
out there
know,
on the level?
this is very interesting because it's not like TV automatically equates to projects. What I
yeah,
have found is local television more so equates to projects.
Right.
Um, and so I've used the national exposure to get in locally. So I've been continuously on one of our top morning news stations. And like when those episodes or those segments air, that's when we see like at least, I would say, maybe every other segment turns into a qualified project.
Right. Right. I think it's fascinating. I think that, there are designers typically, I mean, Niall, I'm sure you've had the same thing where in the past designers come to you and talk about television. And there are designers
mhm,
who have firmly decided against that model, like going
yeah.
after because it's so much work and it doesn't really
Yeah,
truly pay you.
it's
And
work.
it's
It's like a
different.
big myth in our
It's
industry that
yeah, and it's
you're
different.
getting a
Like you don't
paycheck.
understand like the objective, the goal is different. Like, as a designer,
Yep.
you have one goal, right? But when you are doing television, sometimes there's two or three. Like, for me, the contractor had a goal, the builder had a goal, I had a goal, but then the production company, they have a goal. And their goal is most important because they're the ones that are airing. So they want to see it go a certain way, right? And
Yep.
they you are just the designer, you just want to show up and do good work, right? You're not even thinking about, any sort of drama, and if you
Yep.
will. And they want to create a story. And for designers, it's like, well, a story means that something goes wrong, and I don't want nothing to go wrong.
Oh, that was a big hurdle for me.
Yes, it's hard. That's a very hard one to get over because you're like, we're groomed to be perfect and problem solvers. And then when problems are popping up, it's like, what do I do? So
Yep.
Right.
yeah,
Yep.
tough,
I also think
very tough.
dealing with the other side of it too, like I remember being on set with Jennifer Bertrand on her show,
Mm,
and the makeup artist wanted to come over and freshen her up, and she's like, "I don't care, like right now." And she's like, "Yeah, but if I put you on TV and your face is melting, it's my job." Like,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
I'm being held responsible for how you're looking on screen. So she's like, okay. And she got her fresh up. But she didn't, I mean, it's like when you're in the weeds trying to do this, that, and the other thing, it's really difficult to remember the way you look and everything you do and how you're holding your body and the words that
No.
you're saying. It's just
yes,
a
and the
whole
things you
different
say
animal.
when your mic is on, because I had that experience where
Yes.
I did not particularly like a producer, and I said,
I
I
didn't
can't
know if
wait
you'd
to see
call.
her plane take off, and I didn't realize I was mic'd.
Ah!
Wow.
So yeah,
You're
yeah.
making me blush.
It was bad because I was so ticked. I was like, I just cannot wait to see her go wheels up and out of here. And next thing I know, it was like, no, girl, to the control room. I was like, oh. So yeah, no, yeah, a
I
lot to learn.
a couple of curse words have slipped on TV. They beeped them out. I was surprised they even kept it in. But I was like, crap. Like, it's hard. I mean, To Niall's point, like you do have a different goal. So while it is a part of my marketing strategy for the firm, it's also a part of a strategy to grow a lifestyle brand. So,
Yeah.
ultimately I want Gray Space to continue to be, at the forefront of television or product licensing and things of that sort. So it's a vehicle for that as well.
Sure. And one of the things that I have gotten from you from the very beginning, honestly, is your work ethic. You are, and I feel like that's the case with so many people who in this industry really succeed is that work ethic. Like they will outwork anybody. And when you have that commitment where you were like, I will outwork you. I will be up at 1 p.m. I will be there on weekend. I will, be on set until 2 in the morning. Like making this thing happen, that is the driver of success, the tenacity of someone coming in and doing the work. And sometimes we just don't see that. We'll see someone who's been doing the work and putting in those hours, and we'll think, well, they seem like an overnight success, like things just came so easy to them. But we've
Yep.
peeled back the layers on that through the show, and it's just typically it's work ethic. It's somebody who is going all in, laser focus on strategy, laser focus on how they can build those steps bit by bit, having really amazing systems and outworking everyone else. I mean, that seems to be what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know what? I thank you. It's that passion, but I think it's just innately a part of who I am. I've just always been that way in work. And it's bigger than just myself. I mean, my entire family is a part of this. My husband, my children, it's legacy. So whenever I feel like, am I doing the right thing? Should I continue to do this? I think about the bigger picture.
Well, it has, resulted in some really interesting projects. You've worked with brands like Home Depot, Sherwin-Williams, Lee Industries. How did that align with your long-term plans? I mean, it sounds like licensing is going to be a big part of your career.
Yeah, I think that coming from a world of marketing, I understand how brand partnerships are really important. I understand what brands might be looking for when they're working with a designer. And I don't know if you guys are getting some feedback too.
A little bit, but we'll edit that out. Don't worry.
Okay, good, good. Awesome. So yeah, I working with brands has just been a way to be a creative outlet as well. So I understand the partnership and how it can help a brand, but also for me, I think show houses and brand partnership projects, one room challenge, like all of these things really have been able for me to take my career to the next level. I remember right after, excuse me, I left my full-time job, I did a one room challenge in my own home. And that's when I realized the power of that. I was able to be creative. And at that time, I probably wasn't consistently getting the types of projects that I desired. And so I created that in my own home and then used that as a marketing tool to take me to the next level. Same thing with House Beautiful Whole Home. Doing that show house was a way for me to show that yes, all my clients love neutral colors. They are northeasterners and they want to play it safe sometimes. But I love putting wallpaper on the ceiling. I love using blue and pink and purple. Being able to have those creative outlets while partnering with the brands in the process has really been a driver in my career.
Right, right. But it is an investment too. I mean, and that's
Yes.
something that the audience should recognize. When you get an opportunity to do those, it could be really, really valuable if you're going to be strategic about it. So you want to
Yep.
make sure you have a plan in place, like you have some reliable people you can count on, whether it be a connection with a contractor or trades people that can help you with that process, brand relationships, and also, but it ultimately will cost you money. It will cost you money and it'll cost you time, but you'll be able to market, but you have to have that plan too going into place, like have a marketing plan at the end of it. I will tell designers, like, I love a QR code and right in the room with a list, like a beautiful list of everything, your story about why you wanted to be a part of this particular show house, a story of the room, what were you trying to say, and then every brand you worked with, every trade you worked with, ready and accessible for journalists to be able to go with it right away. And there are so many designers who do a show house and they don't do that one step. And sometimes they don't get the press that they should get because they didn't have like a package to be like, you have to package it and get it out there so that so it makes the reporters' lives easier.
And
that,
you have to pitch it too. I don't think people
yeah,
realize that
That's the
unless you have a
part.
PR firm, I
right,
mean, I don't have a PR firm, but if you have someone has to pitch it, they're not going to
right.
come to you if they don't know that it exists.
Yeah.
And so I'm always pitching. It's a part of my workload. Marketing, I carve out at least 25% of my time now to make sure I'm marketing, and that's part of it.
Wow.
25% of your time. I love that. My goal
That's
is like to get
awesome.
designers to spend one day a month at least, you know?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I mean, and
25% of your
listen,
time is amazing.
I probably spend an hour on social media a day. I'm probably doing outreach on email. I mean, I don't know. It's just maybe closer to 20%, but yeah, it's a good chunk of my time. It's intentional for sure.
Well, if
That's
there's
awesome.
one thing that you would want our listeners to hear that would be a sound piece of advice to them, what would it be?
Oh man. Okay. On growing the business, is that
Anything
where
you
we
want.
want to ramp?
Whatever
Anything
you,
you want.
yeah, whatever you think. Yeah.
All right. My sound piece of advice is that you always want to have a strategy. I spend at least a few days a year planning out what the next year will look like, the next quarter will look like. A part of that is identifying things that I love to do and things that I don't love to do, and making sure that I'm delegating that to my team. And then what's critical to all of this is KPIs, or accountability. So if I'm identifying what our goals are, what's going to tell me in a metric that we've hit our goal? And then if we haven't, how do we readjust to get to that point? So I just think it's very much about strategy and planning, and then making sure that you are doing those check-ins periodically to follow up on those things.
I love that. And you have no idea how much I love that what you just said, because we also polled our audience probably about a month ago asking about KPIs. And the number one answer was, what's a KPI, which is key performance indicator. And we created a guide, one-page guide of all the key performance indicators that designers should be checking on, daily basis, weekly basis, monthly basis, yearly basis, so that you are just checking in with your work and you're doing the right things. Well, thank you so much, Rasheeda. This has been amazing. I know our audience will really love all of your knowledge, and
Oh my
you've been so
God. This is
generous
like
to share with us, for
gems
sure.
on gems on gems.
Gems on gems. Yes.
Yeah, really.
Thank you so much.